Hi guys, this is VintageSims, and today we are beginning the Decades Build Challenge. This challenge was started by IrrelephantSims, and I've linked her YouTube channel below. Basically, the gist of this challenge is you build homes for each decade, starting from 1890 and ending with current times. Since I'm an asshole who likes to challenge myself, I'm building 2 homes, 2 retail lots, and doing machinima for each of my builds from each decade. So 4 builds total, and then I might do an extra one sometimes just because I like to do that kind of stuff. The first home that we are building or the first home and retail lot that we build will be intended for the working class or below, and then the second retail lot and home will be for wealthy and like Sims that have a lavish lifestyle. And the lot we'll be working on today is going to be the first home intended for working class. Right now it looks ginormous, but I do kind of cut it down a little bit. The house that I was kind of building it after was kind of large, but it kind of ended up being super big when I went to build it, and so I was like, okay, this is way too much for a starter house. And it was also supposed to be the beginning house for my Decades Challenge, but I decided I didn't want to do it on a farm because I've tried to do the Decades Challenge before, and I always did it on a farm, and I didn't want to get bored because of doing the same thing over and over again, so I decided I would try something else this time. I still have the beginning of the Decades Build Challenge I did before on my channel, and I still do think that it was a good build. It just wasn't the best video quality and sound quality, so I'm trying again, and I do really enjoy this build for many reasons. I put a lot of work into it, and I love that we have the ability to size objects down now because that has changed the game for me building wise. And anyways, let's jump right into this build and talk about what we're making here. So the house that I was looking at and kind of following was, I think it was white or light blue. I'm pretty sure it was white though. And I just kind of thought, I don't want it to be white because the Victorian era, they use a lot of dark colors in their builds, a lot of jewel tones, like greens and purples, dark colors. And that was mostly because they were really poor and didn't want to clean a lot, so there was just kind of like soot everywhere since they were using fireplaces and stuff, and so they would wear dark clothing and used dark wallpaper, dark wood, stuff like that in their home builds. I apologize if my voice is kind of crap right now. I am just getting over a cold. And so I made this house. I couldn't kind of figure out at first what I wanted the layout to be upstairs. I do change it from this later on. And as you can see, I built a child's bedroom. I built that just so we would have a room for the children in the Decades Challenge once we got there, and I wouldn't have to change the house right away because you're usually pretty poor when you start out. And so I did build a child's bedroom. I don't really show it in the machinima I do for this because kind of halfway through I was like, actually I think I might not use this for the Decades Challenge that I'm doing. So it does kind of get changed, but I did leave the child's bedroom in case I use it later on. And I mean, I could even use it for when my Sims move out of their apartment in the Decades Challenge, because right now I'm starting a Decades Challenge and they're starting in an apartment, but when they have kids, they have to move out. So, I mean, I could have them move into this house, but I probably will not because it's an excuse to make another house on The Sims, and I love making Victorian houses, like, so much. I've gotten really good at it from trying to start the Decades Challenge so many times and then just doing builds for fun. We're working on the dining room right now. I did use some wallpaper, even though in the Decades Challenge you're not supposed to have wallpaper until the Edwardian era, which is the 1900s. And so we're in the 1890s right now. We're not supposed to have wallpaper, but I don't follow rules very often, so whatever. The person who made the Decades Challenge didn't really follow their own rules when they put their challenge on YouTube, so I'm not going to beat myself up for it too much. But as you can see, I'm using lots of reds and greens. Those were very big colors back then, green especially, and they were actually using like poison to make wallpaper green. And it was kind of like a big conspiracy back then that the wallpaper companies were using poison in their wallpaper, and like the wallpaper companies would be like, no, we're not, they're crazy, they're just like, you know, making stuff up, trying to make us look bad. But in reality, it was poison, and a lot of people were getting sick and dying. And they used it in children's bedrooms a lot, so lots of children were dying, which was really sad. But luckily, they figured out not to do that anymore. So yeah, it's really interesting. There were a lot of things in the house that were slowly killing people that they just didn't realize. And I'm sure there are now as well, things that we don't want to believe. So in the living room, I used this green because emerald green was just like really popular back then, and I think it looks really good. Plus we have some emerald green stuff in the game, which is good. We don't have a lot of colors, so I think I'm very lucky to find some emerald green chairs in the game. And as you can see, I have a ton of mods. I have about 700 mods right now. I got rid of some because my game kept crashing, and I got up to probably 950 or so, and I was like, okay, I kind of need to go through these and figure out what I need and what I don't need. And I used those purple curtains in there with the kind of plaid because Victorian people would use lots of different patterns in their homes, like a lot of clashing patterns, and they would just fill up the walls. As you can see, I put like a ton of little paintings over there. This lot ended up being really expensive to make because I sized down so many really expensive paintings to fill the walls, but I mean, it's totally worth it. It looks awesome, I think. I really liked how it turned out. I really liked using all the clutter items for here, but it ended up taking me so long to do this build. I had to cut out a ton of it because just placing all the knick-knack kind of stuff around took me so long. It probably took me a good 10 to 15 hours to finish this build with the outside and everything, but I really did like how it turned out. It was kind of hard to figure out colors and stuff because we do not have that many colors, which I'm really sad about. I'm hoping Sims 5 will get that color wheel back. Here's hoping, right? But yeah, I really liked how the living room turned out. I think it's my favorite room out of all the rooms, and it looked really good in the machinima. And I wish that we had more like pet stuff that wasn't so modern looking. I think I've downloaded a few things for pets, but it's really hard to find stuff that doesn't like stick out like that. Chest I have for the pets toys was probably like the closest thing that to like fitting in the Victorian era. Yeah, so I tried my best doing with pet stuff, but I really love having pets now, and I think it kind of adds a dimension because, you know, lots of farmers would have dogs back then. I mean, they still do, but it was fun trying to like pick out the kind of dog I felt a farmer would have back then, and I did a lot of research to kind of find out what dogs were for the best and like the best for farming and less like farming vegetables and stuff and less about hunting. But I did actually pick a hunting dog, and it's fun because you can actually have the dogs hunt in the game. And right now I'm doing the dining room. The dining room ended up being kind of simple. I kind of couldn't figure out what I wanted to do, if I wanted to do wood, but I kept feeling like the wood I wanted to choose for it made it look too fancy, and then I didn't want to keep reusing this wood that I have in the entryway just everywhere, although I think it would have worked pretty well. And I was just still trying to make lots of patterns and clutter and blah blah blah, so I think the dining room turned out pretty good. And as you can see, I have lots of lamps and candles around because they didn't have electricity back then. But luckily we kind of have a good selection of candles and lamps in the game, which is shocking. We have a good selection of Victorian furniture and stuff too, which kind of makes my build a lot easier. A lot of the Victorian furniture I downloaded wouldn't work in the game. The script, what was it, script call failed or whatever. So I had trouble kind of picking out furniture. A lot of the couches and the beds wouldn't place, but some of the chairs would, which is nice. But I still felt like I was so excited because I found so many, like, so much furniture, so many couches, and then like one of them would work, and I'm like, okay, never mind. So I had to go through all my downloads and kind of figure out which ones wouldn't work in my game anymore and get rid of those ones. But it's kind of nice to declutter as well, and I've figured out a good way to declutter. And here I am filling in the kitchen. I was like, oh, look at all these pots and pans that I can put up here, and I didn't realize that they all had food in them. So as I'm doing the machinima for it, I'm like noticing all this like stinky food in the kitchen, and I'm like, oh, all those pots I placed now have like old rotten food in them. So, I mean, this lot actually isn't very playable. I mean, it is, but if I uploaded it to the gallery, a lot of the stuff would be missing since I have so many mods. So, I mean, it's playable, like the bare bones of it are playable, but it would look quite different in your game. I mean, I didn't use a ton of mods because a lot of the stuff I used was unlocked content, and so I mean, I tried to use the least amount of mods, but it's nice having mods when you're building this kind of stuff. So we moved on to the upstairs bedroom, which I think I kind of changed it around from what I'm trying to do right now because I was trying to fit this bathtub in. I wish that there was a mod for like little round bathtubs. That'd be nice because I have to fit them in front of the fireplace. We have an outside like porta potty here, but the baths were inside. You would kind of bathe in front of a fireplace. And fun fact about baths, the whole family would do them the same night with the same bath water. So it would be like, I believe the order was the father and then all of the sons in order of age, and then the mother and then the daughters in order of age. So if you were the youngest child of like 12 kids and you got like really, really nasty bath water, really, really gross. And I've never been happier about being able to shower in clean water. And I put a lot of plants in this build. Victorian people did love their plants, and lots of ferns and like spider plants, things like that. Just like leafy green plants, and this guy's also a farmer, so I felt that was pretty fitting that he would have a lot of plants and really enjoy having plants in his house. And plus it just like adds to the look a lot. And his room is super cluttered. It is kind of hard to get to certain places in his room because it's so small, so that's another reason why it's not super playable. But I mean, I figured it out doing the machinima, and it looks pretty good because they just, you know, they cluttered that up, and it'll be really nice when I start making the Edwardian houses in the 1900s because they totally decluttered their stuff and everything's a lot lighter. So although their houses are different, although their houses are very similar and have similar style, there is like a big difference in colors and like little things that they did differently, like not cluttering everything up so much. And I did change all the whites to be kind of orange hued because I think it kind of gave it more of like an older look, having the orange hued lights, because it looks more like the color that candles would actually give off, like a warm glow. And I think that even that little thing just kind of changes the whole vibe of the house. And right now we're doing the kids' room. I used the same quilts as the parents' room just because it looked better. I don't know, like I almost changed the ones in the parents' room to being different because the kids' one looked a lot better being that, but I just decided that I would keep it the same since the kids' room was kind of an afterthought. But I mean, I did want to make it look as good as I could. I think at this point I was still planning on doing the Decades Challenge with this family. I had tried to do a apartment build before this and I kind of failed it, so I was like, okay, never mind, I'm not going to do an apartment. But then I tried to do the apartment and I was again, and I kind of was like, okay, I can probably figure this out. I mean, I really do love building farms and figuring out where all the plots are going to go, and I think this lot was really good for farming, and I just really liked how it turned out. I have a piano and like a violin outside for them to play. When they have like a big family, they can all get outside and play their instruments together and hang out with the dog. I just think it'd be a really good family house, and I think I do make it, like I do put plants in and have them actually farm a little bit to fill up that back area, and it ends up looking really good. And I don't know, I'm just really happy with the way the plot turned out, and I love the machinima I did for this lot, and I think it looked really good. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you guys for watching my videos. There'll be a lot more to come. Thank you so much. This is Vintage Sims, and bye!